Hey, what's up? I'm Coach Oyama. I have a passion to help you improve, and I specialize in macro. I do all my coaching for free, and all you got to do is DM me. All right, so here's my contact info and some of the experience that I have as a coach. Let's get right into the VOD reviews. I haven't read this paragraph yet about this VOD review. I'm in 3-1 around their tracer. I feel like I trolled a few key cards and struggled to find some value on some targets. I started the game out pretty rough, but I feel like I pulled it together towards the end. I have some from April 25th. Now let's go ahead and take a look at it. So currently, Tracer's in a pretty good spot, I feel like. So if you're learning Tracer right now, pretty good time to learn Tracer. You have the benefit of the doubt that it's way easier right now than if Tracer wasn't very nice in the meta. So first of all, looking at the team comps, I just want to do this at the start of every VOD review because the way that you play your character varies because of the team comps. That's not necessarily very dramatically or drastically, but so here we have Ryan on both sides. Okay, so we know that we're probably going to be playing for a brawl. You guys have, or they have an Ana, you have an Ana. Except the thing is, the difference is you have a Kiri, they have a Life Weaver. You have a Sojourn, they have a Cass, and Hanzo, and you. So what this means for you immediately at the start of the match, and I think it's very important to go over this especially, is you look at your threats and you look at your opportunities on the enemy team. So if, for example, they have a Zenyatta's your #1 target and the easiest thing in the entire game. So Life Weaver is pretty much Zenyatta because he's not as easy to hit, but he's nearly there. He's like 90% of Zenyatta's hitbox, and it's really easy to shoot a Life Weaver to death as Tracer. So, needless to say, I wonder how you're going to play this engagement. It's good to know the overall top image of things, otherwise you're just going to be kind of like roaming around trying to get value out of, while not knowing how to get value, and only, like gambling, you know, you're like, I'm just going to do my thing, and if I somehow get value, that's great, but if I don't get value, then whatever. And that's not the way to become a consistent player. I mean, you know, you can get better like that, and you can eventually grow to be a good player like that, but the fast track is just understanding what you're doing every team fight. Okay, so here, you're controlling space. You're not going in too hard because your team's not in yet. You don't need to do that. That's very nice. Okay, so here it dies. Unavoidable. Okay, right here, I think the target prioritization is a bit off. Okay, I like this engage here, but the target prioritization is still a little bit off. Yeah, and that's why. So when you're playing against a Life Weaver, it's similar to like, and then I'll talk about a bit like blink management. Because not a lot of people know how to play against Life Weaver, and I don't want to sound like I'm like mansplaining here, but I feel like the community doesn't know how to play with or against a Life Weaver quite yet. Ooh, okay, no shy. I'll talk about that pulse bomb when I see the next pulse bomb. Maybe that one was just a oddity, but especially against Life Weaver. Life Weaver has all utility and no stats, pretty much. And so if you're shooting if you're dealing damage to his entire team in general, it's going to be very hard for him to keep up. If you're dealing damage to only one person, it's very easy for him to keep up because he just uses all of his utility and whatever stats that he has to funnel into that one person. But you know, if you spread his resources thin, it's very easy for him to get overwhelmed and not even be able to protect himself. That's a very troll flower platform. So in these fights here, for Tracer players, I very much recommend that you take very calculated, precise engagements. Oh, very nice. I think your tracking is really good. I think the mechanics here, perhaps not the Tracer mechanics, but the overall tracking and movement without the blinks is pretty good. I'd say though, I noticed a couple of times that there are moments in which you can refine your blink usage, and even though I'm not the best Tracer player in the world, I've watched like tens of hours of Dante play, and tens of hours of Apply, and tens of hours of Sugar Free, and tens of hours of, you know, all the good Tracer players, so having some idea here. Okay, these are good engages. I would say go for the back line instead of the front line here, because you know that they're resetting and that their back line isn't going to be watching their front line. Very nice. Okay. So for these pulse bombs, I'm gonna need you to go into the practice range and practice pulse bombing. So they're, you know, I don't want to be the person to explain it because there's a billion YouTube videos and I'm pretty sure you've probably seen one in your lifetime. But pulse bomb, blink, pulse bomb, double blink, pulse bomb, blink, turn backwards, pulse bomb, blink, blink, turn backwards. Practice all the variations, practice all of the distances. But most importantly, when you are pulse bombing, put a little bit more emphasis on the value of the pulse bomb, because I feel like you're kind of just lobbing it out like it's like a bionade, or like you're lobbing it out like it's an ash grenade or just a Cassidy flashbang. You really want to put emphasis on getting value out of hitting that pulse bomb, and setting it up and getting yourself mentally ready to hit it. And so that means, like, in the middle of your clips, if you're not ready to hit it, don't throw it. Of course, you know, like the best in the world will just, they're always having full control over their movement and their aim and everything that they do, and so they're able to transition from clipping, dueling, blinking everywhere, and then just in their mind they just go pulse opportunity and act on it. But especially since you're not at that level, and there's no expectation to be at that level because that's literally professional level, when you have pulse bomb, what I recommend Tracer players to do is, without making it too obvious, even though you kind of do have to make it obvious, almost stop shooting at the enemies and change your playstyle so it's reflecting I have pulse bomb. And then after you're able to get the muscle memory down and for sure be able to hit your pulse bombs, because you're at the point where you're at the point where you're focused when you're able to throw your pulse bomb. Like, let's go back here and look at this pulse bomb here. If, for example, you were only thinking about pulse bomb here, I feel like you were very sporadic and you were looking around and panicking a lot versus just thinking about the pulse bomb. I need to hit this, I need to hit this, I need to hit this. You know, if we're in training range and there were two people in front of you like that, you would probably hit it, and the only difference is that you're mentally more prepared to hit the stick. And the fact of the matter is, here in this fight, you weren't mentally prepared to hit the stick because you were transitioning from your your usual playstyle of like Tracer taking these engagements 1v1ing and then hitting the stick. So, you know, my huge spiel about Tracer stick, but this is one attribute as a Tracer player that'll literally just get you into GM if you're able to consistently hit sticks. And to be fair, that's in this season, not in generality. I usually speak about MMY and Overwatch 1 turn space because Overwatch 2, for whatever reason, a variety of factors, including way more players have played in the ranking system being flawed in the first place, the Blizzard being Blizzard, whatever it is, there's okay. I feel like that was a bit more calculated, but you still missed. But I like the fact that it was more calculated. You weren't shooting, you were very focused on the pulse bomb. But yeah, needless to say, Overwatch like 1 SR, it would get you into like high masters, maybe even 4K if you are hitting your pulse bombs. Okay, I think this next round I'm gonna start talking about target prioritization, because I feel like you're getting a lot of value once you engage, which is very rare for Tracer players, to be honest, to see like you in Diamond. Usually what will happen for Tracer players in Diamond is that their lethality is not there. So you have a pretty good lethality, meaning that when you engage, you can actually get a lot of value and you can actually pressure a one clip or even get a pick. And a lot of these times, if you notice, when you engage on the supports, they're not even looking at you. And so that's like a really big opportunity, because if they're not looking at you, you're going to kill them. And they're not even like looking at you. Like the supports that you're shooting aren't looking at you. And so I'm going to talk about how to take isolated engages and maximize utility, maximize your kit, so then you can take these engages. So that engage there, I would say a couple of variables. 1, it's on the supports, good. 2, it's in the mid fight, even better. 3, the third one though was the positioning and like where you engage. Like, yeah, I like the fact that you're using your kit to go like 0 or 100, like a on-off switch. But because like right here, you're just kind of shooting the Reinhardt and not looking for opportunities to go in. Like here, go in the back line. Go in the back line and one clip someone important on the floor. When they're resetting here, position on the side. So then if we look at the map, as a generality, there are usually 3 lanes. So 3 lanes here around the entire map. If you position perfect on this lane here, when they go into main, they have to exert so much more energy to deal with you. So yeah, so now that once you're in this lane, they have to deal with you so much more. And oh, okay, that was a I didn't see your POV on that pulse, so I don't know the reasoning or whatever. But the pulse bombs are a very important part of your gameplay that we can easily fix. The next one is taking isolated 1v1. So knowing the structure of team fights is a good one, because you have pre-fight, mid-fight, and then cleanup. You want to engage around right here. So if this is the scale between pre-fight and mid-fight and then cleanup, we want to engage around like right here. And say this is the middle. That's bad annotations. Like right here, if this is the middle, just around this general area, because it's in that area where they start to separate and they start to lower the defenses for you to be able to like penetrate into their team comp and cut them. That's it. But I feel like you're using most of your cooldowns here too. Okay, perfect. You're marking this far. That was a huge mistake for the far to come out like that, but a bit of tunnel visioning comes with awareness. I'm assuming you guys lose the point off of this. Very nice. Okay, nice try on the pulse bomb. I don't know if I can't tell if it's your mechanics or whether like your mechanics of the pulse bomb. I think by increasing your mechanics, you eventually will increase your game sense to hit those pulse bombs anyways. There's still go in the practice range, go on the you know, there's a balcony where this target dummy has lines of meters away from it, and your blinks are exactly those meters pretty much. Practice your pulse bomb ranges and then go to the moving ones and then practice your pulse bomb ranges there. Make sure that you get your sticks and that every stick is very controlled. I would edit it so then you can change your I would edit it so then you can change your settings so then your pulse bomb charges even faster, so that you can like keep on pulse bombing. That was that's pretty funny, not gonna lie. That's pretty sussy. I'm gonna drink like supposed to be a sports drink. It tastes like sports, man. God. Okay, so I'm gonna use this team fight as an example of how to take isolated 1v1s. Kingtro is not the best map for Tracer, to be honest, but here this is a good time to take an isolated 1v1 either 2 ways. One, okay, he just uses tree though, because that's unfortunate timing. The Cassidy is antied, so that's one person. They have a Mercy and they have a Life Weaver. So whenever you're facing a Mercy, you always target the Mercy first. Except this is a dilemma. I'm honestly not too sure. Let's think it out. Life Weaver, you should always target the Life Weaver first, so it's like very conflicting. I feel like it's case by case basis. Whichever one is more distracted, you should target the other one. Because if you target the Life Weaver and the Mercy's staring at him, she's going to pocket him. If you target the Mercy and the Life Weaver staring at him, he's going to pocket her. So since the Life Weaver is looking at main right now and he's very distracted, you can see that and be like, okay, that guy's zoinking out, and then so now I can go on the Mercy in the back line. And even better, that Cassidy's antied, so then you can go on the Cassidy, and if you kill the Cassidy, you go on the Mercy after. But so what I want to see here is that you're ready on the flanks. So up here, let me get some spectator overview. I feel like it's easy to understand the team fight like that. So on one of these flanks, ready to go in when the opportunity arises, because you just missed an opportunity here to try to get a 1-clip. The fact of the matter is, even if you don't get the 1-clip, you know, the Owl Tracers will get the 1-clip, but you'll pull so many more resources, because it's probably going to be like Cassidy's stick, Cassidy's roll, his pedal platform, or shift, and maybe his life grasp on another support. You might even pull that Reinhardt's attention backwards. And what that does for your entire team, you trade your like kit-ish, like let's say like 70% of your abilities, and then they give up space here, which if we're talking about just in generality, you have health, you have cooldowns, and you have space. So you trade like, let's say if your entire team has 100, or if your entire team has 10 units of each of cooldown, and you only trade like 7, so now your team is at like 43 cooldowns. Their team, you just traded like 10 cooldowns. Their team's at 40. They just gave up space, so it used to be like 50-50. Now it's like 45 and 55, or 55 and 45 for your team, favoring your team. And HP, it's just about the same because no one really did HP. But you can see how now you guys are 3 units ahead here. You're 5 units ahead here. And eventually, in the long run, it'll come out to more opportunities and thus more places to win. But in this timing here, what I don't like about your gameplay a lot is you take these isolated 1v1s in... because... here's a hard flank, here's a soft flank, because you can regroup with your team pretty instantaneously. That's the difference between hard flank and soft flank. When you take a hard flank, you have to make sure that's worth it because you can get a kill, or because you can definitely... yeah, pretty much because you can get a kill. Otherwise, hard flanks aren't worth it. Or disable an enemy, which is pretty much a kill. And be up faster than them. Okay, so this team fight you don't really do too much. On to the next team fight where we can talk about that exact same principle. Ooh. Okay, let me see this stick. Okay. I don't like this stick because of the way you approach it, even though I like that you hit it. So let me explain. If we're going into 0.25, this is a very risky stick because I can tell you're... I don't want you flicking after you're blinking. I want you blinking at the targets because that'll give you even more consistency when you're sticking. If you're flicking every single time, which of course that's an important skill to have, but when you're higher up, this is a good engage. This is a good engage here because you're still connected to your team and this Pharah is not connected to her team. So if you take any damage, there's a lever. If you take any damage, then you know, you're with your team and you can immediately regroup, and this Pharah is going to have to spend more offline time regrouping than you. And so now you're in the sideline. One thing on Tracer is think of yourself as like a Predator almost, where it's like you whittle down your target by chasing them, and once they're out of energy, then you pounce. So now if you have your kit, the Brigitte is low, it's not even you who whittled her down, but now you pounce and you would have full health, you know, CDs, health and space, or positioning. You have the good positioning, you save your health, you use just a little bit of your CDs to get the Brigitte low, and then you initiate. But in that situation, you use too much health, and then your initiation was weak because you didn't have the CDs to deal with the, or didn't have the health. You have the cooldowns to deal with that Pharah behind you, but you didn't have the health for it. And if you have that health, you know, it's a very small difference in between, like, well, but it was just 40 health off, but that's the difference between getting, like, blown up on the side by a Pharah and surviving, then recalling or blinking out into a safe place and resetting and not putting yourself offline because you died. You know, putting yourself offline is pretty much the same thing as dying. But if you're only offline for 4 seconds waiting for your cooldowns versus dying and coming back for like 20 seconds, that's 4 times as much. And 4 times a rank is like, you're in Diamond, 4 times your rank in MMR is like 8,000. Yeah, 8,000. So that's kind of OP. There's a spider in my room? Or is that dust? I think that's a big ass spider. I'm gonna have to kill. Okay. So things that we can immediately improve on. 1, pulse bombs. Your Qs, your ults. And I need you to go into the practice range and let me put that out in the open. One is your ults. This is terrible. I need it on a blank surface. Your ults. You need to go into the practice range and practice ult blink, ult double blink, ult triple blink. What else do you need? Yeah, alt blink, turn backwards, alt blink, look to your left and do a 90 degree. Um, it's better to think or know that you're going to have to flick, because I can tell in that pulse bomb that you actually stuck, you flicked after the fact reactionarily rather than preemptively. Because if you were flicking preemptively, there would be zero buffer between you blinking and flicking, but you double blinked and then flicked. And there was like a millisecond in between. And so that's the difference between consistency. It's just all about like how you're thinking about it that will get you the consistency. So the more familiar that you are in the practice range, the more familiar, and then your gameplay going into the pulses is you cannot expect yourself right now to transition from full 1v1ing into pulse bombing. That's just too hard of a mechanic. So instead of thinking of full 1v1, limit yourself your capacity to like 40% of your brain is like on the 1v1 and 60% is on the stick. And I would even say like, because you're in Masters and I think that your mechanics are above average for or Diamond, and your mechanics are above average for Diamond, I'm going to recommend you to I would say like if we're in Bronze, Silver, Gold, Plat, and maybe even Low Diamond or Mid Diamond, I would say like go 100%. I just need to hit Pulse Bomb. I'm going to position for a Pulse Bomb. I'm going to play for Pulse Bomb. I'm going to be so obvious that I'm going to Pulse Bomb, but I'm going to get the Pulse Bomb's value. And then I'll recall and then do my usual thing after. But for you, I feel like you can do like 30-70 or 40-60%, where 30% of your brain is like, okay, I'm taking this 1v1, but 70% of me, I'm only here to get the Pulse Bomb out. It's like, yeah, I was about to make a crude joke, but I'm not going to tell a joke, so I'm just not going to botch this joke. But needless to say, you're here not for the 1v1, but for the Pulse Bomb, and the higher you go, eventually, you'll be like 100 or like, you'll be at the point where you'll be able to feign like, I'm only here to engage, haha, and you'll convince the enemy team, and then you'll Pulse Bomb, and then they won't be ready for the Pulse Bomb. Versus if you're 100 and 0 in GM, they're going to be like, that guy's ready for the Pulse Bomb, I'm ready for the Pulse Bomb, I'm going to block it or dodge it. So, yeah, and then once you get to that point where people actually start dodging, because those enemy supports in Diamond, especially Masters even, and maybe even GM, I'm guilty of it myself too, they are not aware. You can kind of just play to Pulse Bomb them, and they'll just be like, oh, a Pulse Bomb, I'm dead. And then that's a lot of value, considering missing your Pulse Bomb and hitting your Pulse Bomb are 0 and a 1. And so it's binary. If you hit the Pulse Bomb, lots of value. How long is this VOD review? Only 22 minutes. Cool, manageable. 2, let's talk about when you're engaging. So, well, actually, let me get some foresight here, because if I talk about too much on 1 and 2, then I won't have a 3. But, okay, let's talk about when you're engaging, and I think number 3 will be the engage itself. So, or number 2, I'm going to talk about your positioning into the engage. So positioning, remember how I was talking about the lanes? The best way to play Tracer is, so there's 3 lanes here. At the very beginning of the fight, you know what? Positioning and timing are very integrated into each other, because they'll affect each other in the sense where positioning in cleanup phase, you can go in main, you can go anywhere. Positioning in setup, you need to be certain places. Timing, like if you go in during setup on a flank, it's okay-ish. It's not as bad as going in on setup in main. But if you go in through main in mid-fight, it's not that bad. But if you know. So let's explain here. If they're at full cooldowns, health, and space, and / positioning, I'm just going to call it positioning. You know what? I'll call it space, because I feel like space is more relevant. Positioning is map-based, where space is, there's space on every map, and it changes based off of the map. It's more dynamic. So if you're on the sideline over here ready to pounce, that's 1 blink less than if you're back here with your Reinhardt looking at the enemy team. And so what I want you to do is be like right here during setup, and as soon as you see that they start like they're first of all, the way that team fights transition into pre-fight into mid-fight is when they start using their attention on your front line or elsewhere, other than like they're very attentive in the setup. And so they're going to be looking around for flankers, they're going to be assessing the situation, but as soon as they start tunnel visioning, which is very prevalent until like very high gameplay, they're going to start tunnel visioning and try to get value out of their kits. You'll see that even better if they use critical cooldowns like bubbles, Sigma Eat, Sigma Rock, flashbang, roll, bionade, even better. lamp shift, Baptiste shift, his regenerative burst. But if they use anything that indicates to you that it's already mid-fight, and so then you can apply a more greedy position if you know that you can get value into their enemy team. Otherwise, you can continue to stay back here or like in this general area and look for a 1v1 on an enemy DPS who's trying to get a better position, a better angle on your team and get greedy. But for the most part, I think you're going to be starting out over here, like shooting the enemy tank like you did. But it's like my intention here at this party is not to shoot the tank. It's to get over here so then I can pounce on your supports. So that being said, we're not over here to shoot the tank forever. We're here just to like draw resources and almost like you. I honestly think it's more waiting than doing individual effort, because if you wait, the team fight will eventually, most of the time, a different portion of the time, you'll actually have to carry your team and make those opportunities yourself with your kit and force some and use some of your cooldowns to bait their cooldowns, put them in bad positions, and then you can engage onto them and do your usual thing. But especially on King's Row, a tight map like that, you can kind of just sit on the side. You'll see an opportunity, then you can either hard blink to the side and then engage, or you can go just straight in if the opportunity is good enough, like it's Zenyatta mispositioning or like one of their supports is very distracted. Then those engagements, just doing that will provide you so much more value, because I already know that you can aim and take those 1v1s and your lethality is pretty high. You can almost one clip almost consistently. I feel like it's just the fact that you're not engaging on the right timing and being in the right positions and taking those opportunities, because there's a lot of, I can tell you for sure, there's a lot of I don't want to be that guy to be like, I know there's a lot of opportunities in your gameplay, but I'm not going to point them out. I feel like there's just not enough time to point them all out, but giving you this advice and telling you about the positioning and the timing of the team fights, being ready to like look at those, you'll begin to realize more. And perhaps there's another VOD review in which I can in the future in which I can help you out and be like, okay, this specific instance, this is specific instance. But for now, I'm going to say use your general intuition to be able to gauge those ideas. And just this, now that you've seen the light, now you can apply it into your own gameplay, and it'll probably change your gameplay quite a bit. Those are very actionable steps for you that you can take that'll immediately improve. And if you somehow improve on those, you'll immediately hit GM1. Because your gameplay is honestly pretty good. The micro is like pretty good, and that's a lot of tracer. I mean that sometimes like that far in the window and you like scuff your blinks. That's it needs some improvement on the movement and the overall fluidity of your tracer gameplay. But that'll come with time, and your overall lethality and effectiveness in team fights will mostly be improved by this higher level decision making stuff. So thanks for watching. Hopefully I helped you a little.